worship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer.
Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles.
All the believers were together and had everything in common.
They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need.
Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts,
praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily
those who were being saved.
That was a reflection of not just our people that meet here locally, but also online. People are sending in their videos as we've requested. And every week you see we're adding to the number of people in that video, just as the Lord added to the number that were being saved to His church. We're in Acts chapter 2, hanging out in these few verses for a few weeks, talking about this forever family. And what that first century group did, those first Christians, those first believers that had obeyed the gospel, what they did. Today, the title of our lesson today comes from Acts 2:43, and it's Forever Family That Walks in the Fear of the Lord. Now, I want to tell you that if you've been taught or preached or had to prepare something and you did some digging and some study, you start with an idea, you start with a place, you start at a place, and maybe as you get into things, maybe it moves here and there, but you kind of stay generally where you think you should be going. Every now and then, and probably more often than we even realize, the study takes a life of its own and begins and goes down places that you never thought possible, that you never would have occurred to you. And that is the case with this lesson. When I started preparing for this a couple of weeks ago in my mind, thinking about angles, thinking about, okay, we could do this, had some ideas, and some of those are still in play. But boy, when I started drilling into this text, it went a direction I never thought. It took a life of its own, and I'm so grateful. You know, when those things happen, you can either stand on your toes in excitement or curl your toes because they get stepped on. This was a toe-stepping lesson for me. And so as I share this with you today, this is, it really hit me in some ways that, wow, Dave, you got some work to do in your life. And I know that, but boy, sometimes you just get those realizations. You know, in our text it says this, Acts 2:43, everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. And at first glance, you're like, yeah, I get that, no problem. Well, let's drill down a little bit. Let's break that down. Everyone was filled with awe. The first part of that, everyone was filled with awe. This translation does a really good job. It's the New International Version translation. Does a really good job of hitting at one aspect of the meaning of this text. However, there's a lot of depth when you start to drill into some of the meanings of these words. Different translations will say it this way. The Old American Standard and the English Standard Version says this, and all came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. Little nuance in the meaning there. The New American Standard Version says this, everyone kept feeling a sense of awe, and many wonders and signs were taking place through the apostles. The New King James Version says, then fear came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were done through the apostles. So you can hear with each one, maybe when the translators came through and they started looking at these original manuscripts and they said, wow, what does this mean here? It doesn't mean this, but it does mean this. They really had some trouble trying to figure out the best way to say this in English. Now, whenever they read it in Greek, they got it because they understood, and they understood in their context. But boy, whenever we read it in English, there is some difficulties there. So let's look at this. Was filled. The words was filled in this phrase here, everyone was filled, is the Greek word genomai, which means come upon. Okay, now I'm going to nerd out for a little bit on some deep Bible study, so stay with me. There's no test at the end, but I think whenever you stick with me, you'll be like, oh, I get it now. So stick with me. We're going to nerd out a little bit here. For those who like to nerd, well, most of us do, to nerd out on some of this Greek stuff, you're like, oh, cool. The rest of you are like, just pretend to be oh, cool about it. The word ginomai means come upon, and the tense of the word indicates this, a continued or repeated action. In other words, whatever came upon them, this all that came upon them, it wasn't just a one-time thing. They continued to be in awe. It's like if you ever been to the mountains, we got to go see some friends of ours from Canada. Karen and I went with Reed and Tammy Parker a couple years ago. And I tell you, the best time to go to Canada is in the summer because it's cool up there. We stayed in a cabin, no air conditioning, and it was beautiful while we're sweltering down here. But every place we went and we hiked, every mountain lake, all those glaciers that were there, we just continued to be in awe, continued to be in awe. That was what was here. They continued. It was not just, oh, yeah, that's good, wow. It was, oh, wow, and it just continued to grow. That's ginomai. They continued to be filled over and over in increasing measure. Then, what were they filled with? They were filled with awe. The word here is the word phobos. And it's the Greek word where we get our word, any guesses? Phobia. And that means fear. Hydrophobia, fear of water, and you just throw whatever the word's in, and you throw phobia in it, it's a fear of something. Now, so literally, if you were to take that and put that together, it means fear kept coming upon every soul. And we won't get into the whole soul part, that's the word psyche, but we'll get into that another day. Fear kept coming upon every soul is the literal translation of that. Now, that's a tricky translation and because it uses the tricky word for us, which is fear. Yeah, we don't like that word. Fear, when we first hear the word fear, it has a negative connotation to it. But that's the word there. Phobos is fear. That's why the translators are saying, okay, it's not the fear in what we typically think of fear. It means awe, it means reverence. And so they put the meaning in there, rightfully so, and they did a good job of that. But let's drill down a little bit. Fear, that's why, one thing too, context is so important in understanding things. Fear has many layers to it, doesn't it? When we first hear the word, it's usually a negative connotation of being afraid, of cowering, of being unsafe, unprotected, there being imminent harm or danger, and we tend to try to cast it off or get away from it, remove ourselves from it. Or as it's anticipated, it can really wreck us and can really trap us in some things. However, there's several levels of fear. One, there's this emotional state of fear. But then there's the fear which the Bible talks about, but then there's also this fear of the Lord, the fear of God. And that is a mature or a maturing fear that we all need to live in. Emotional fear. This type of fear is built into us, okay? And it's built in to be momentary. So the three F's in fear: fight, freeze, or flight. Either we're like, okay, I'm in danger, my family's in danger from something that's threatening it, I'm going to fight the threat. Or I'm going to leave. There's something here that is fearful, I'm going to get away from it. Or what you'll see, sometimes people just freeze and they don't know what to do. And probably at some level, we've all done that. Fight, flight, or freeze. That's a momentary thing when it comes to emotional state of fear. The other thing that's built into us with this type of fear is situational. It gives us pause. You ever have that moment when you're like, I'm not so sure this is good for me. I'm not sure this is a good situation. That's a little too close to the edge. Remember one time we were in outside Heber Springs in Sugarloaf Mountain. Have you ever been to Sugarloaf Mountain up in the Heber Springs area? And my daughter, it was all my kids, we were up there camping, and Avery, my daughter, and I, there's like this little false cliff here, and Karen and my son, Nathan, do not like edges at all. And so we're standing on this thing, and Nathan is over here, and Avery and I are like, oh, no, it's fine. Come on, no, it's fine. He's like, no, I'm good. And we literally, I hope I'm not messing the camera up here, but this is cool. But we said, no, it's great, watch. And we jump down to a ledge that's as big as this, but it's it's about this far down to your waist. And he's like, no. It's like, it's okay. That little edge there says, I need to step back from that and stay away from that type of fear of falling, not necessarily fear of falling, but the sudden stop at the bottom, they say, that is it keeps us where a distance away from things that can harm us. Those are good. Situational, because they cause me to stop and think. And for a lot of us who have been, I'm afraid of getting caught, I'm afraid of getting in trouble, has kept us out of trouble. For the majority of us, it's, I was afraid of getting in trouble, but I figured a way around that fear, and I got in trouble. And instead of learning from it, we probably said, okay, let me learn how to get around it again. And we just kept that spiral going. I'm confessing myself there. I'm not confessing for anybody else. But this is a good thing. It keeps us safe. It makes us aware of danger. But remember, it's momentary and it's situational. That emotional state of fear. It's momentary and emotional. We were never made to live in that kind of fear. This emotional state of fear becomes unhealthy and toxic when it goes from momentary and situational to the driving force in our life. When fear is the thing that drives us to avoid and withdraw and to try to find some way of easing something so I can feel safe, it's never good. In this case, it's always seeking safety, escape. It's resisting things. It's hiding. It's withdrawing, avoiding otherwise potentially healthy situations, but yet we tend to avoid it. A lot of times, people won't come into a room like this, to a church, because of fear of list, just fill in the blank in your own mind. Why? Whatever. But they won't come into a body of believers because this would be a good situation, but they avoid it because their fear, their emotional state of fear has become toxic. We were never designed to live in that kind of fear. The other fear is fear of the Lord. And this is healthy. This is mature and is a maturing, growing thing in our life. Same word, fear, phobos, but a completely different context and a completely different meaning. Listen to some of these verses. The fear of the Lord is to be lived in and walked in. Consider this. In Psalms, the fear of the Lord is pure, enduring forever. Come, my children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. In Proverbs, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord adds length to life. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, turning a person from the snares of death. Acts 9, then the church throughout Judea and Galilee and Samaria enjoyed a time of peace and was strengthened, living in the fear of the Lord and encouraged by the Holy Spirit. It increased in numbers. Philippians 2, Paul tells the Philippian brothers, you obey, as you always have, obey not only my presence, but much more in my absence, and continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Whatever the fear of the Lord is, it's good. We should desire it, and we should walk in it, we should grow in it, and try to figure out what that is. Now, the fear of the Lord, if you don't hear anything else today, hear this. The fear of the Lord is not living afraid of God. Okay? The fear of the Lord is not living afraid of God. The fear of the Lord is characterized by several things. And I've got a couple of slides up here. Now, if you've been to a step study, you've been to Celebrate Recovery, you know the people that wrote the Celebrate Recovery curriculum never met a word they couldn't turn into an acronym. So here we go. When we live or walk in the fear of the Lord, one, it is characterized by living by faith or living in faith. Hebrews 11:1 says, now faith is being confidence in what we hope for and the assurance of what we do not see. We can't see it, but we know it's there. And then he says this in verse 6, and without faith it's impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to God, must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. So when we begin, the first steps of beginning to walk and live in the fear of the Lord is a walk and living by faith. Faith is the foundational step, trusting that God is who he says he is and is able to do what he says he will do for us in our life, and that he is not only doing that now, but has secured my future. It's trusting God with the control over my life and not me trying to control things in my life, trying to make sure they're arranged the right way. It takes away, oh, let me do this, I got this phrase, out of our vocabulary. Sometimes those things, when we walk in the fear of the Lord and walk in faith, sometimes those things are removed slowly. Paul would say, quoting the prophet Habakkuk, he would say in Romans 1:16, that the righteous live by faith. So if walking by faith is what righteous people do, then righteousness is walking in the fear of God. And that is a faithful walk. We're walking by faith, not by sight. The other is this, other characteristic of living or walking in the fear of the Lord is faith. The other one is expectation. Live in an expectation of deliverance or something better. You walk into a relationship with people, when you walk into these buildings, when someone invites you and you take that scary step sometimes to walk in, or you ask, can you help me? You're expecting something greater. Because of what he has done in the past, we live in the present with great expectation of what he will do in our future. Psalm 23, very familiar, says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will what? I will fear no evil. Why? Because you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. In other words, I'm secure in that. I'm guided by that. You're leading me even though I can't see where we're going. And what I'm seeing in the middle of this thing is not very good. And in some translations it even says the darkest depths. I am following you. I am walking in fear of you, in faith and expectation that something is better. But not only that, when we walk in faith, but also in expectation. But we live and walk in awe of God. And that was really the translation here in Acts chapter 2. They walked and lived in the awe of God. Live in amazement and wonder at the many aspects of his work. I love, and you've heard this a lot of times, and I just love saying it because I love it when he says it reminds me. When Derek finally began in that rehab down south, Derek McQueen said, for the first time in 14 years, I heard what? I heard birds chirp. And that's beginning to live in the fear of God, and we're aware of, wow, you've done some wonderful things. Even from the largest things that we can see to the minute little things of birds chirping. Not only that, but the large things that we see done in our life, to the smallest things and intricate details of working out our deliverance. From his creation to his deliverance, we live in awe of what he's done. Psalm 8 says this, O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory in the heavens. And when I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon, the stars, which you have set in its place, you've done all that. What is mankind that you're mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them, but yet you became one of us to redeem us. From the beauty of his creation to the beauty of his redemption, we stand in awe of God. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. And the last one for now is reverence. When you look at ancient cultures and even in our cultures now, and they make God into a piece of gold, even though, an expensive idol, or a carving of wood, or whatever desire that we want to make it. we lessen God and we don't take God seriously. God is to be taken seriously. Reverence, walking in reverence. And I believe that that's one tactic of the enemy, is for us to be flippant with God. God said, don't take my name in vain. And when people do, boy, it just makes us cringe, doesn't it? Taking God seriously. Psalm 130 says this, if you, Lord, kept a record of sins, Lord, who could stand? No one stands justified before God on our own. Because if he kept a record of sin, no one can stand. But we stand justified before God, because the rest of the psalm says this, but with you there is forgiveness, so that we can, with reverence, serve you. We stand before God, justified because of the blood of Jesus, not because of anything that I've done or you've done. It's because of Jesus. And because of that, we serve him with reverence, and we take him seriously, not flippantly. Elijah, when he was confronted with the Lord, hid his face. Other prophets, when they saw a manifestation of God, fell down as though they were dead. They understood the reverence of God. The fear of the Lord has the opposite effect on emotional fear. It draws us close. The fear of the Lord draws us in, whereas emotional fear keeps us withdrawn, keeps us at a distance. Emotional fear leads to control and resistance, whereas fear of the Lord leads to surrender. The fear of the Lord frees us. Emotional fear binds us. The fear of the Lord opens our eyes instead of blinding us to the things that are around us or narrowing our vision. And get this. This is the other thing. If you don't get anything else, get this. The fear of the Lord drives out every other fear in our life. And think about that. Every other fear and how it manifests itself is driven out when we fear the Lord. This led me to a few realizations. One, this is where it stepped all over my toes. On a personal note, there are areas in my life that I need to grow in the fear of the Lord. How do I know that? Because I got too many other fears going on. I got a lot of other fears that I deal with. Fears of, you just name it. And I've got it. And I need to let the fear of the Lord reign in those things in my life. Walking in faith, walking with expectation, walking in awe, and walking in reverence of him. The other realization is this. On a congregational level, thinking back, we need to do a better job on teaching all of us what it is to walk in the fear of the Lord. I got to thinking, we talked about it, and we know, we need to walk in the fear of the Lord. Yeah, the fear of the Lord's a good thing. But how does that affect us when I wake up in the morning and when I lay down at night in my interactions with people? What I click, what I watch, what I read, what goes in my mind and what comes out of my mouth. Is that being filtered through the fear of the Lord? And those four little things right there that just happen to fit and work well in that acronym is not even the tip of the iceberg. That's a sliver of ice in understanding what the fear of the Lord is. I encourage you, go find a Bible app, Google search something, the fear of the Lord, and all the verses in the Bible. It'd be a good start. And wow, wear some steel-toed boots, because it'll curl your toes up in a second for sure. But that's what's coming down the pike. After this week, I talked to a lot of people. I talked to Brian, Derek, Josh. I talked to Mike. I've preached this sermon to 4 different people this week, and they all showed up today anyway. So even though they heard it, because I'm like, this is an area we've really got to delve into. And so get ready. Coming downstream sometime this summer. We may have a summer of fear. I think we talked about the other day. The summer of living in fear. That may be our sermon series. Don't hold me to that, but we're working on it. So know that's coming out. But for now, that's enough on the fear of the Lord, because we want to get to the rest of this verse. Many wonders and signs were performed by the apostles. That last part of verse 43. The message of the gospel, as it came out, was accompanied by wonders and signs. These two words mean the wonders were something extraordinary and momentous that happened. And the signs give the idea there was a confirmation, and it distinguished it from something else. You know, when you come along and say, oh, yeah, this is good, this is good. Oh, That's the real thing for sure. You know, it's like buying that Rolex on the street in downtown New Orleans. Oh man, yeah, got me a Rolex. Oh no, that's the real thing right there. This is a plastic copy. But the signs and wonders performed by the apostles confirmed their message that was different and authentic, and that it was from God. Healings, resurrections, speaking in other languages, prophecies, visions. While they weren't present at every instance and meeting or interaction, when they were undeniable and they were out of the ordinary and always included the preaching of the gospel. Mark 16 says this, "Then the disciples went out and preached everywhere, and the Lord worked with them and confirmed his word by signs and that accompanied it." The result of the people as they went out with these wonders and signs was that people came to Jesus and they continued to walk in the fear of the Lord. One of the most powerful signs and wonders we still see today, every day in our life, is changed lives by the gospel. Isn't that one of the greatest, beautiful signs and wonders? Does God still work miracles? We're in a building full of miracles, are we not? Yes, he does. Not just in the miracle of changed lives, but the miracle of people healing. I mean, we talk about people who, you know, just a couple of months ago, I asked Robert Thompson on the spur of the moment, tell us, come up here and tell us what the doctor told you this week. Well, we anointed you 2 weeks ago for COPD and all these things going on, and now there's no sign of it. Yeah, you know, go figure that. You know, so we pray and the Lord works. Is that a miracle? Well, you know, it's modern science and it's a miracle. Give glory to God. You know, I mean, yeah, let him have it. We're not scared of that anymore. It's okay. But it's good. So seeing a changed life is a miracle. Watching a person go from dead to alive and then walking alive in the fear of the Lord is a powerful testimony to the redemptive work of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. When people walk in the fear of the Lord, blind eyes are opened to see ever-increasing wonders of God's amazing work. Blind spots are removed, and we see His working in our lives. People who were once skeptical and doubtful now are believing and confident. Blurred vision becomes clearer and clearer. Kingdom direction and purpose come into view, and we start doing work we never saw ourselves doing. And that is the power and the signs and the wonders that God does in our life as we grow in Him and we walk in the fear of the Lord. We've got a video we're going to roll here in just a second of 3 lives, 3 people that have opened their hearts to us to share a little bit about what their journey is, about how the Lord has changed their life. Let's roll that.
Hello, I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I have struggled with depression and anxiety and codependency and all the behaviors that I use to self-medicate those things, and my name is Felicia. Everything in my life has changed. I came in broken. That was my whole identity. And the people at WFR and Celebrate Recovery just loved me until I loved myself. I don't think I really knew Jesus until I met the hands and feet of Jesus at WFR and Celebrate Recovery. Something different about this environment and this community, and it has allowed me to be who God created me to be. I currently serve on the Celebrate Recovery team as the Encourager Coach. I also serve as a small group leader, and I've served as a self-study leader, and I serve at the welcome table at Celebrate Recovery on Friday nights. I'm amazed how God allows me to use the very things that I was so ashamed of to help and change the lives of other ladies. All those things that I kept hidden under all the masks that I wore, now I get to show those pieces of myself and allow people who have been where I've been to know that healing is possible. One of the new ministries I'm involved in is the Saturday Ladies Coffee Devo. It's something that we do in the community that I think has really impacted. It's really enjoyable that we get to sit with the Word a little bit with the ladies in recovery. And it's just been a blessing both to me and hopefully to the people in the coffee shop that inadvertently get a Bible study. I think if I had to give some encouragement to someone wondering how God can use me where I am, it would be that God is not looking for eloquence. He's not looking for someone who has all these Bible verses memorized. He's looking for a willing and a sincere heart, a heart willing to follow Him and a heart that sincerely wants to help someone else. I have learned, if I've learned nothing else, that if you show up and you show up with your whole heart, He will guide and direct you to where you need to be.
My name is Ryan Hammett. I serve coffee to a lot of people on Sunday morning and Wednesday night. My wife and I were living in Illinois, and we were dying spiritually. And my wife cried out to God, we need to move from this place, and we need to do it in 2 weeks. And it was ridiculous. I could talk barely, you know. It was, but I think when somebody said, there's a guy here who makes coffee, and his back is out. Could you do it for us? And I said, sure. It is more than just coffee, especially when we started doing CR, because people needed to befriend them, and I was in the perfect place because they come to me for coffee. But I pray with people. I talk with people. And I welcome them.
Hi guys, we're Damon and Kayla Holland. We've been here at WFR for around 5 years now.
And together we serve in the Re-Engage Ministry and the House Church Ministry.
So when we showed up here about 5 years ago, we were alone for the first time without community or family around after moving from Alabama. We got invited to a house church group and immediately plugged in and just watched God provide that community and family we were missing. God works in mysterious and funny ways. We're now co-hosting that same house church group with our friends Sean and Jessica Sewell. God not only gave us a place to plug in, but He provided abundantly with a new extended family and new friends as well, people to do life with.
When we reflect on what changes God has made in our life over the past couple of years that we've been here, it leaves me astounded, honestly. We did start the Re-Engage Ministry, and that sort of prompted us to want to share that information, want to share those tools with other couples. There's something freeing about telling your story and have people support you and love you and then cheer you forward. And so we feel very passionate about staying engaged in that ministry. We love to be there. But as far as what's been amazing about what God has done in us, for myself personally, for a couple of years before we came to White's Ferry Road, I would say that I was still in the pig pen. I was very much in a prodigal situation. And by the time we came here, I knew that God had forgiven me, but I wasn't sure He would use me at all. I thought my usefulness was over. And so when I think back on that period of my life, I was at my worst. And all the while, God was preparing this place for me, a place with friends, a place with family. He was going to bless us abundantly in ways I could not imagine, and that was during a time when I assumed He was done with me.
Whenever I'm asked to do anything, the first thing I do is pray about it, and then I think about how can I be used to help serve God. And what I've learned most importantly is that God cannot grow me inside my comfort zone. So I tend to say yes because I can't let fear keep me from doing what God has asked me to do.
I was a preacher by trade, and I did not know what I could do without being able to talk. And it turns out that I could do a lot of things, and especially blessing people. I bless other people, but I in turn am blessed. I'm glad to be doing this.
So if I could give you hope that whatever your story, whatever your life is doing right now, that not only is God redemptive of your soul, He's redemptive of your story. And there's so much usefulness you can have wherever you plug in, wherever He puts you.
You know, these testimonies are just a sampling of the signs and wonders that God still performs every day and every moment of people walking in the fear of Him. Coming in paralyzed by fear. Fear was my identity. Ryan, the loss of ability, and the fear of being able to what do I do now? What can I do? New life situation, living as a prodigal, and fear that my usefulness was over. Boy, I can definitely identify with that one. We all find ourselves somewhere in there, yet as these three and so many have took that step of faith by saying yes, showing up, and being vulnerable, expecting something greater than their present situation that they were in, they began to walk in awe and reverence of the things that God was doing in their life. They began to walk and live in the fear of God. So the question is this: where are you walking? Are you walking in the fear of God? Are you standing in awe of Him and reverence of Him? Are we still locked up and on the emotional fears of what's there? The gospel frees us. The gospel, putting our faith in Jesus Christ, is that first step of walking a life in the fear of God, in which all things, all other fears are driven away. If that's yours and where you need to be, come while we stand and sing.